All right, how's everyone doing? Thanks for tuning in. I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA show. WTF are you talking about? So I actually am driving from New York to Chicago today and tomorrow most likely. And I was talking to my mother. Hopefully the audio is not too screwed up. I try to fit in these podcasts when I can, and when I'm driving for some reason, they come out pretty good for me. I'm not saying the audio necessarily always, but the fluency. I've spent a majority of my life driving. For 30 years, me and my father, I helped my father in the vending business. All we did was drive from location to location, picking up, dropping off money or equipment. I also did a lot of driving when I was younger too, just gambling, driving to different states, which included going back and forth to Chicago. And then for the last 10 years, I've been flying and driving constantly. I haven't put hundreds of thousands of miles. I've more or less put millions of miles on cars. So anyways, maybe just when I'm in a car, I'm just kind of mentally clear. I know no one's going to bother me. So my mother, back to that, I was just talking to her, and she brought up the podcasts. She loves Jake Ducey. I'm not sure if you know who he is. He's he's kind of a... He's caught up. He's not caught up. He's really good, actually. He lives in Hawaii now. He used to live in Encinitas. He's kind of a public speaker on the law of attraction and all those type of things. And so, anyway, she loves him. So she just sent me a text with a new video of him. She's hilarious. But she was talking to me about my podcasts that I'm always talking about my father, and I don't talk about her enough, which I find kind of funny because I'm always bringing her up. She just must not be listening to those. And I said, Ma, how much can a son talk about a mother? And she wanted me to talk about our past, how wonderful it was, how many things we used to do together, because I came from a divorced household. And my father, if you know anything about my podcast, I'm not going to get. He owned a nightclub basically until I was 14, and I lived with my mother up until I was about 18. Moved to Florida, lived with my dad a couple years, and then left and was solo from there for the most part. So, my mother wants some recognition of, sometimes, and I'm her only child, so wants the recognition a little bit to say, hey, you turned out this way because of me. You were protected by the Lord because of me, because she's very religious, and I get that. Sorry about that. I got to clear my throat out. I just had some pizza. But what I want to... what made me think about this is, I do talk about my father, and I think about both of my parents, how I was programmed when I was younger, and I do sometimes think that I was programmed by my father, even though I wasn't with him more. I'm not saying I was programmed by him more. I think I took on an identity when I was younger, more of him, not only because we're father-son, just because I gravitated towards his lifestyle and the type of person he was. And I actually just hung up the damn phone with my father again. I talk to my parents at least once or twice a day. I don't know if you want to call me a weirdo. Never used to be like that. The last few years, as time went on, more and more years and years gone by, I've talked to them more and more and more. I don't know, maybe I just miss my parents. I love my parents. Realized as I got older that they're not going to be here forever, either am I. So I want to enjoy every day. And if you get a chance, reach out to your parents. I don't care what they've done to you in your past, or what you've gone through in the past. Well, that's on you. I'm not saying you got to do whatever the hell you want to do, but if, sometimes let things go. I know a lot of times with parents, we end up in these jams and we end up in fights. Sometimes we don't talk for long periods of time, and it's ridiculous. Now, if your parents are horrendous and have done a lot of things to you, then that's on you. I understand. Maybe you don't want to talk to them or be around them. I get it. But if it's not that bad, don't make a big fucking deal about it. Grow up and take the hit. Try to talk to your parents frequently. A lot of times, when you start consistently talking to them, you'd be shocked how much more they open up to you and how much you open up to them as well. And you start to realize, especially as you get older, how much you have in common with one another. But back to my mother wanting kind of, not saying recognition, but there is that there. I realized a lot, even though I was only with my mother, not only with my mother, but at different times I was only with my mother because my father would travel or kind of leave for long periods of time. I don't know how your father was. My father would go to different countries, go to the islands, even go to Florida, and then he would be around, and then he wouldn't be around. he didn't intentionally mean to like just dip on his son. But my mother and father were divorced at this time. I just think he lived a very, I'm not gonna, it's flamboyant, very free-loving, kind of entrepreneurial, just really hip type dude who didn't play by anybody else's rules but his own. But the thing I was thinking about as far as my mother and my father with the programming here. So people ask me regarding my Mastering Self-Confidence program is the confidence thing. How do you have balls big enough that you think you could teach men how to build confidence? And that, for some reason, wasn't even my idea. A friend of mine was creating a program on how to help people with their brain. It's called Limitless Brain. It's pretty amazing. Get a chance, check it out. And I had a book out called The Wingman, and then he said, why don't you do a program based off the book? I was kind of, and then I didn't want to necessarily do YouTube, podcast, all these things. He just said, shut up and do it. Where he went back and forth for like a year trying to come up with different names. And then he said, Rich, basically, all you're trying to do is help people. And a lot of what you're trying to teach men in your book, Wingman, which that's got like fitness, hygiene, fashion, and building up confidence, obviously, because the book is a must-have guide to find the woman of your dreams. And for you to do that, you got to have some type of confidence to go after it. He says you're always trying to help men build confidence. So that's where I came up with that. And I was trying to dissect where do I get this from? Where do I get this attitude from that thinks I could teach this? And I kept thinking about my youth. It had to start somewhere because I've talked about this before. I was very introverted because my mother and father are very extroverted people and very strong-willed. And I was very quiet. I didn't talk till like 5 years old, I think, or roughly around there. But what my mother and father were, I still would say, are extremely confident in who they are and what their beliefs are. And I mean, very strong. And I don't think you're going to shake them. My mother with religion and my father with just his mindset. And if he believes in something, or her, that's it, really. I mean, they will pivot and change their mind regarding certain things, but for the most part, be ready for a war. Because they value, they have very strong opinions and believe in their values. So, going back to when I was younger, I was trying to say, how did I, especially like even with writing Wingman, because I was married I was dating someone for a long period of time, 7-8 years. I mean, she went to college, and then I ended up getting married. I was married a while, and I wasn't like into, I'm not trying to be a playboy or a player or all those things, but the confidence thing regarding women or just building up confidence, I think what I'm really starting to realize as I do these podcasts and write the program and help people more and more regarding this subject is that when I was growing up, that I was being taught confidence by two different parents and family members and even my friends. They were all very confident people, so it naturally got installed into me. I didn't have, say, one parent that was kind of mushy or scared, and then maybe another parent who was, verbal abusive, or, my parents really built me up and kept wanting to build me into something huge, which I didn't realize till later in life. My father used to always say, think positive. He even got me, I used to play tennis, he got me even a specialty tennis sleeve to put over my racket that said think positive, and then he used to install, lifting weights, being powerful, get into shape. And my mother with religion again, and then my mother wanted me to become more and more educated. I just kind of fought her on that one. My father kind of taught me the streets. My mother wanted to teach me religion and education, but they always had the best intention for me, because I think they both wanted me to be something that they weren't. I really believe that, which is a blessing in itself, and I would hope most parents would, to a certain degree, want their kids to be the best they can be. And I think what happens with parents is they want you to be similar to them, right? Because they want you to have the same values, and at the same time kind of break out and become your own thing. And I think sometimes when we go too far our own ways, it scares them, because now we're losing an identity with them or our connection, which isn't the truth, but isn't truth. But I think sometimes parents may look at it that way, where all of a sudden, if you change your religion, for instance, they may freak out. If you even move out of a different city or state that they live in. They're going to kind of freak out. If you raise your children a different way than they raised you, they may freak out. So back to the confidence thing with my mother and father installing that. And I think a lot of people don't realize their programming when they're younger, and I talked about this before, is how they're truly being programmed. And, you're being programmed. A lot of things are probably really, for your safety and really helpful and things. But then again, other things may not be. And it's a hard, sometimes thing to, swallow, saying, my parents were right about this and wrong about that. And it's our choice to kind of make decisions and say, you know what? I'm not down with that. I'm more or less down with this now. Because as times change, especially society, religions even are evolving, political things are changing, whatever industry you're in, that's changing. Sorry if this is loud, I'm going over some bumpy roads over here in construction. But so you have to learn to pivot or make the best moves for yourself and your children. And a lot of times that may be against what your parents believe, but I think sometimes your parents will understand that, because no matter who you are, you've got to be a person of the times. Now, unless you're some Amish, which actually I'm in Pennsylvania, and I love those Amish guys. I got to go take a photo with them guys when I see them again. Sometimes I run into the Amish. And I got to take a picture with those crazy Mormons, too, around my house with those white shirts and ties. I dig those kids. And one of them had a flat tire on his bicycle. I was going to help him. But then a bunch of crazy Mormons pulled up. They were hilarious. And this van jumped out. They're silly guys. Anyways, what the hell was I talking about? All right, let's get back to it. Let me get a glass of water. So, with your parents and being a part of the times. Because your parents most likely grew up in a totally different environment. But back to confidence here. When it comes to women, for instance, I'll just use that for example. I always said, where do I even get off? I was such a skinny, scrawny kind of kid. But I really did not have a fear regarding talking to women. And I meant women, not kids. I think that comes because my father, again, owned a nightclub. And my father had waitresses. I don't think he had a hostess, I think, upstairs when he had the restaurant. He had bartenders, waitresses, women that helped him. And I was the son, so I'm being treated by these women. I'm being catered to a little bit. They're always talking to me, and then you have customers, and they're all going to kind of kiss your ass because you know your dad owns the joint, the bar, the restaurant. And then wherever we went, my father got treated like a goddamn celebrity. Now, if I flip it to my mother, I had a lot of family members. I'm talking hundreds, cousins, and also my mother bartended and then went into waitressing. So again, I was around other women waitressing and going to even my mother's bar once in a while in Melrose Park. The Grapevine and all those Italian guys were wonderful to me. Again, my mother had a lot of girlfriends that were very beautiful because my mother was actually quite young when she got a divorce. So how old was my mother? Mid-20s. So to make a long story short, I fell into being in this environment where I didn't look at talking to a woman as being nervous or even any girl. It was just a part of my environment. And I remember going to high school or even junior high, my friends, I remember they'd be like, oh, do you like this girl, this girl? I'm like, who's the tall one? Because she's like a woman. And I discovered this with my buddy who has got a PhD. And I said, what was my thing? My whole life, I only liked tall women. I didn't like short women. He said because when I grew up, I was always looking up. Even starting off 2, 4, 5, 7, 12 years old, I was always looking up. Tall women are tall. So I looked up and looked at them as women. If they were my height, they were children, which I found quite interesting. He was absolutely correct. That was almost the thing I had where I only liked women that were as tall as me or way taller. Even for most of that's what I really was attracted to the most. Even when I was doing modeling, there was a lot of beautiful women. I really only liked the tall girls. So even my ex-wife was very tall, but now I'm fine with whatever height. Jesus Christ, that was just something I had going on mentally. But then I remember even when I was in junior high, I didn't like most of the girls because I thought they were kids. And I was actually looking at my teachers because I thought the confidence, like, hey, even though I'm only 12 years old, 13 years old, I could talk to this teacher. She's just another girl, another lady, who cares? And even the way I would talk to them, not even very politely. I would talk to them like you would be talking to, you're supposed to respect your elders, especially teachers. I didn't respect them any more than any other woman out there. And I think, again, that was the programming that I was around. And then as I got older, I remember even in high school, I had absolutely no problem talking to any woman at all. Finally, they started to catch up a little bit with age, but I still liked, even in high school, college girls. I would hang out with older girls, go to college parties. And I have older family members and my cousins. Some of them are very beautiful on both sides of my family. I'd go to parties with them. So they're in their mid-20s hanging out with girls. And I just dug all the older women that I was around back then. And it wasn't because I necessarily had big balls or, hey, you're Mr. Confident or you're great looking or anything. It was just me being who I was in the environment I was raised in. And I don't think a lot of people, especially men, realize the environment you were raised in is really kind of how you've transformed into, and you don't even realize that. It could even be somebody who's addicted, say, to video games. You started playing video games even with your father or with your friends. Before you know it, you're very comfortable playing video games, obviously, anywhere you go. But if you spend a majority of your time either in your bedroom or in your living room by yourself doing that, that's basically kind of self-programming yourself. I didn't do that. And it was even, I remember when I was younger, I have an obsession with Toy Story. I love that movie to death. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Actually, Toy Story 2 and 3. I like 1, but those 2 and 3, everything that's the only thing I really, my girlfriend, everybody collect. I love Slink. I love, obviously, Woody, Buzz, Jessie. We could go through the whole damn thing. I mean, that's all I talk about is them guys once in a while. That's why I still love Disney, is because they're affiliated with that. But I grew up not liking toys. Don't know why, never gave a shit. I liked Evel Knievel, but I love balls, and I loved anything sports-orientated or weightlifting. Don't know why. Never asked for toys. I was even talking to my mother about this, and she always wondered why, too. She said she should have nicknamed me Bally, or Ball, as a joke, because I always had a ball in my hand, or I always had a mitt in my hand, or I just wanted to go play sports constantly. Never was interested in toy cars, building blocks, anything related to that. And that wasn't necessarily, my dad was huge into sports. He was a very athletic. Even when I was younger, that's where I got my weight set when they got a divorce. So I started lifting weights like when I was 5, 6 years old. He put a bench in my bedroom, and that's what I would sleep on sometimes, was this bench. But for some reason, I gravitated towards sports. I was obsessed with it. And it was very interesting because when Toy Story came out, I saw the second one first, fell in love with it, and then it started to hit me, why did I not like toys? And that was because of my mother and father. I guess it was something internal. But it's weird when I watch that movie, it almost makes me feel like, did I miss out on something? Why would I love a movie so much about toys? And I know the writing's amazing, the characters. But I think, programmed myself when I was younger. And I think this is another thing I want to touch on with people is you have to also realize there's things, not your parents, other family members, siblings, that you're going to take, a liking to. And for some reason, you start self-programming yourself to become basically self-obsessed with certain things, which is quite interesting how we all have those things. And I don't think, again, we really catch a lot of those things. And sometimes they can help us. So you hear these stories about, hey, this kid always wanted to go to Harvard or Yale or wanted to be in politics, and the next thing you know, 50 years later, he's the president. Or this kid he started a business at 12 years old, now he's worth $100 million. You hear those type of stories where, you're younger, you become interested, but for the most part, a lot of people, I think, become self-obsessed in a lot of different things, and they're kind of lost throughout their life because they go through different phases. So one minute you may like video games, the next minute you may like sports, the next minute you like girls, and then the next minute you're back to liking school, and then the next minute you like cars, then you like boats, which I'm not saying is bad. I'm just saying you're kind of jumping all over the place, which is great. You're kind of going through all these things, and all those things are basically making you who you are. But so back to the mastering self-confidence. I think one thing that's missing with most men with confidence, I guess is what I'm saying more than anything here, is acknowledging their past and what helped build your confidence, or what hurt, what destroyed it. Because it seems like to me there's a lot of people that have a lot of confidence and they're dumb fucks, I'll be honest with you. A lot of people too with a lot of confidence do a lot of bad things to a lot of people. It could even be robbing people, killing people, all these different things that they think they're going to get away with. And I'm always like, Jesus, you know what the confidence level it is to go pull a heist right now? Now, if you're a professional burglar or something like that, I can see that. Like having, because you built into it, you learned about it. But a lot of people even becoming drug dealers, trying to pull off big moves and all these things that don't know what they're doing. They truly think they're either going to get away with it, the cops aren't going to catch them, or whatever the case may be. That's a very, that's something that's amazing to me, because the confidence level's got to be off the chart, at least in doing that. And then you also obviously have people that have a lot of confidence that go on to get great educations, great jobs, help people, figure out what they want to be in their life, and go do that as well, right? We get that too. There's good and bad with confidence, like anything else. And then there's the lack of confidence, which I think a lot of people have more than confidence. Because I don't know if it's because of rejection or not willing to get enough knowledge regarding what they want. Obviously, there's fear involved there, right? I think fear is always obviously involved with everything. Either two things I've been contemplating lately, really what life really does come down to, for the most part, I think. Well, I can't say it's two things, but one of them is, well, let me say both of them. One is fear. Obviously, we don't do a lot of things because we're fearful, right? That's kind of how we protect ourselves, to stay safe, but it's also a way that we kind of destroy our dreams or our visions or what we want to do too, right? Fear. So it can be used both ways again. But the other is attention. People don't want to acknowledge most of the things they're doing is because they want attention. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It could even be saying, hey, I want a lot of money because I want to buy a home and a car, or I want this and that. And if you get to the stem of that, why do you need that? It could be for yourself only and, self-fulfilling, but it also can be because I want to show everybody I'm smart, I'm wealthy, I have more than you, right? Or I want to go to this certain college. Why? Because I want to educate myself. There's no question about that, to the highest level, say. But you also want to be like, you want to drop the H-bomb or the P-bomb. I went to Harvard. I went to Princeton after you graduate. That's something that's going to grab people's attention. So attention is always, I think, a component of our life. And that even goes for people that are out there doing horrendous things that just want to be on the news for the day. Or it could just be somebody that wants to do something great for the day, or just something simple locally. But if you really look at social media, I think that really exposed everyone to a certain degree, because if you look at somebody who's posting all the time, and I would be one of those people, and a lot of times it's just posting to say, look where I'm at, look what I'm doing, or I can, what am I selling, or whatever the case may be. Photos, videos, tons of different things, quotes, what you're thinking, what you're, Twitter, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's social and public, you're looking for some type of attention. And you've got to acknowledge that. A lot of people don't say, I used to know tons of actors, tons of people in the entertainment industry. Why do you do this? I do it for the arts, or I do it because of this. I want to be a rock star because of this. Or you know what the truth is? Most do it for attention, right? Even if you want to be a rock star, is it because you really love writing music? Yeah, you do. Okay, at the end of the day, you could just write music. I've talked about this before, and sit in your garage. No, you want to make music, let people enjoy it with you, and hopefully maybe tour, make money, and it's also going to give you gratification because people are going to love you or like what you're creating. That's not a bad thing, right? And I think one of the things when it comes to getting the confidence again is accepting that, hey, I want attention from women, or I want attention from whatever I'm seeking out to do. I do. I want to improve in my job. Not only do I want to make more money, but I want respect from my colleagues. Or, hey, I want to be better in this sport because I want people to look up to me and see how fit I am. I want to do a better time doing a marathon, or I want to lift more weights to show people in the gym that I am strong, or that I am an alpha male. Or if you want to be stylized, I dress this way because it's an expression of who I am, and it's also telling people, hey, I know how to dress this way. It's a part of my culture. It's a part of me. Whatever the case may be. So, anyways, that was one of the things I just wanted to get into today regarding mastering self-confidence. I'm getting hit up more and more saying, Rich, how come on your podcast you're not talking about mastering self-confidence or all these different things. So I said, today, you know what, I'm going to do a podcast regarding that on the road. So hopefully you kind of either agree or disagree with me. If you disagree, let me know. You can leave comments. I post my podcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Did I already say that? Who the hell knows? I'm also, we're everywhere. We're on iTunes and wherever else you could get podcasts. And leave a comment, reach out to me, and if you have certain subjects you want to go through, and if you do want to, my program is called Mastering Self-Confidence, the Blueprint to Trying to Find, or it's basically to help men find the woman or women of their dreams, even if they've been through a bad breakup or divorce. And I had a conference call. It was kind of a conference call. But I was speaking with somebody yesterday. It wasn't a conference. There wasn't other people involved. I shouldn't have said that. I had a call, and it was somebody possibly looking to book me to do different events. So, all over the United States, maybe doing some public speaking, things in that nature, more podcasts with other people, doing radio, all these different things. And I've kind of been through that before with people, so we'll see how it pans out. But, it was interesting. She was talking about young guys and old guys, like how the program would work for either one. And I said, it's very interesting because younger people seem to be so much more open-minded to learn. But my middle-aged guys are very hard to get through. They're very hard-headed, even though they seem to be having some of the hardest times. But this expressway is getting loud, so I'm going to wrap it up there. If you get a chance, you can check out my YouTube channel, Rich CELENZA. And like I said, I'm all over the place social media-wise. So I'll wrap it up there. Take care, and I wish you nothing but the best.